Cubase 13 has arrived. How do I know? Because when I looked at my YouTube subscription page, it was full of videos about Cubase 13. And a couple of people actually thought it was a good idea to do individual videos on each of the new features, which is very useful, to be fair. Now, if you're a Cubase user, you probably want to know what's in the update. If you're not a Cubase user, but you're thinking about maybe jumping ship from one DAW to Cubase, or perhaps you haven't got a DAW and you're wondering whether you should go with Cubase or not, well, I think you might find this interesting. So what do I think of the updates? Well, I found them slightly underwhelming, and I will explain exactly why. Now, it's not to say it's a bad update, just it's a little bit lackluster. We'll get into the details in just a second, or some of the details. This is not going to be a review or an overview. I'm going to point you to a couple of resources which I think you should check out if you want to know more about it. The first place to stop, obviously, is Steinberg's website. And here we can see they have listed most of the new features, if not all of the new features. The marketing department has obviously written this headline tongue-in-cheek. However, scroll through the page and you will see the list of all the new features and the new goodies and so on that you get in Cubase 13. And when we get to the bottom, which we will eventually, we have the price. No, actually we don't. We have the upgrade prices. So if memory serves, I currently have Cubase Pro 12. The update from 11 to 12 was about £85. But you can see the price of the updates there for the current 3 different versions of Cubase. If you want to know the full price, if you don't have any versions of Cubase at all and need to buy it from scratch, then that is available on another page. And here it is, and you can see exactly how much they are. 500 quid for the biggie. A rather strange £282 for the artist version, and a rather modest £85 for Cubase Elements. Now, if memory serves, and it may well not, after the update had been out for a little while, Steinberg made me an offer I couldn't refuse, which was, I think, a little bit less than the £85, and so I jumped on board with that. Now, I was using Cubase when it was first released on the Atari ST. This would be, late 1980s, early 1990s. So I went up to about version 5 or so. I had a bit of a break from music, and I took up again, I think it was with version 8. So I've been upgrading from version 8 to version 9 to 10 to 11 to 12. Steinberg has had a lot of money out of me for Cubase updates. But from this time perspective, it's quite interesting to ponder the fact that Cubase Elements, the most basic DAW in this collection, is hundreds of times more powerful and flexible and versatile, has more features than those early versions of Cubase, even version 5. Now, Cubase is currently my DAW of choice. I don't know a lot about other DAWs. I think it's one of the most powerful DAWs out there, and it is used by hundreds of composers, professional composers and hobbyists alike. So let's have a look at the updates and see what Steinberg is offering in version 13. Now, if you want a good rundown of all the new features and with an overview, I will point you to what I think is one of the best videos so far, and that comes from Dom Sigalas. I shall put a link to that video in the description. Now, Dom, or Mr. Steinberg, as some people call him, I don't think he works for Steinberg. Maybe he does, I don't know, but he is certainly paid by Steinberg. He created some of the presets for some of the version 13 plugins, and he has created presets for some of Steinberg's other software. If you are a Cubase user, you probably subscribe to his channel. If you do not, then I would strongly advise it. He gives you a lot of production hints and tips about using Cubase. I think he's an excellent producer. He's very enthusiastic about the products and the demonstrations that he does. Now, I call him Mr. Steinberg because if you look at the Cubase videos, then they are being presented by Dom. But he seems to give you a bit more information on his own channel, which I thought was interesting. So I would certainly recommend you watch that. But one of the things I found most interesting watching the video on his channel was he's an enthusiastic guy, and I was watching him being so enthusiastic about the most minor of upgrades. And let me just run through a few of these things and tell you what I think about them. So at first glance you will notice possibly that the GUI has been updated a little bit. There is essentially more information on screen, as if there wasn't enough there already. There's a revamped mixing console. There's a revamped inspector. I'm not sure if it's a revamped inspector, but they've introduced a channel tab which gives you more stuff over on the left hand side of the page. The piano roll editor has been updated with new features. Chord pads have been revamped. The sampler track has been revamped. The MIDI effects window has been revamped. TC recording has been revamped. The key preferences, keyboard shortcuts window has been revamped and made easier to use. MIDI step input has been improved. I would find that useful for creating pyrotechnical arpeggios and runs. So yes, there have been a lot of revamps, a lot of things have been updated, really not by a massive amount. And I really struggle to see how this can jump from version 12 to version 13. It is at best really a 0.5 upgrade. So while I was watching Dom's video, he actually numbers the updates or the improvements. There are 26 of them in his video at any rate. And I got to number 6 or maybe 10 and I was wondering, where's the biggie or the biggies? Maybe he's leaving the best till last. But no, there were just a lot of revamps and little updates and minor tweaks and additions. Definitely not a jump from 12 to 13. But there were some interesting additions on top of the revamps. Probably one of the biggest, and I use the term loosely, is a plugin called Vocal Chain, which, as its name suggests, is designed for vocals. It actually contains a few new plugins as well, so it's sort of a plugin which houses a few other plugins. So if you don't already have your own set of plugins for processing vocals, that could be very useful. And it also contains a new compressor and, EQ. Don't pretend to yawn, because you actually do start to yawn for real if you do. But really, do we need another EQ and another compressor? I have dozens of the things. A lot of them are free, but Native Instruments has some in their bundle, Arturia has some in their effects bundle. I think every synth company which gives away freebies has given away a compressor and an EQ. Okay, you might like collecting EQs. I just think really, anyway, let's press on. There's a vocoder. Can you have too many vocoders? It seems to be a very nice vocoder, so that's a nice addition. There's an Iconica Sketch orchestral sample library. It's not a full-blown library, it is a sketch version, but that's nice to have if you don't already have a sample library orchestra. There are freebies out there. Spitfire's BBC Discovery Orchestra is a really nice free orchestral sample library. There are new sample packs. I've never really got into them. I know a lot of people love samples, so this is more stuff for you to play with. And one of the most interesting features is it's just a little switch, but I think this would be really useful. And how Cubase has managed to get to version 12 without including this feature, goodness knows. It's a mono stereo switch. So you can switch any channel between mono and stereo. If it's a mono channel, you can make it stereo. If it's a stereo channel, you can make it mono. And this is really useful for mixing. So you can see what your mix sounds like in mono. And being able to do this with the click of a button is really useful. Now, I think a couple of other people have pointed out that this is really not a 12 to 13 upgrade. It's a 12.5 at best. Now, Cubase 12 included Spectral Layers 9. Now, Spectral Layers, if you're not familiar with it or haven't used it, it's a neat piece of software which will separate the different parts of an audio recording. So yes, you can extract the vocal line and the bass line and the drums and so on. And a few months ago, Steinberg released Spectral Layers 10. And since we had Spectral Layers 8, I think, in Cubase 11 and the Spectral 9 in Cubase 12, I was really expecting Steinberg to include Spectral Layers 10 in this new release in Cubase 13, but they haven't. So that might actually, for some people, have made the upgrade worthwhile. I have used Spectral Layers 9. It works pretty well, but I gather it does not work quite as well as Spectral Layers 10. So that's a massive disappointment. The other surprising, well, perhaps not surprising, but disappointing, certainly from my point of view, is that there are no random features or generative music features. Now, I know Cubase is a professional program for professional users, but don't tell me professional users do not occasionally want to inject a little bit of randomness into their music. So I think that's a shame. A lot of other DAWs do include sort of random element in some way. And although Cubase is designed for the professional, it is used by, I would suspect, hundreds of thousands of non-professionals and people who would really like to get into that side of music creation from within their DAW. And if you want to take this, what else should they have included any further? Well, I think a lot of people were hoping for some better, bigger, more interesting plugins. So I think this is really a strange update to jump from 12 to 13. It is absolutely not going to make anybody jump ship from one DAW to another. And if you are looking to buy a DAW for the first time, I don't think the enhancements are going to make you want to put your money on the table and buy it in any event. If you're not wanting to drop 500 quid on the biggie, then I think the Elements and certainly the artist editions are worth looking at. But do check very carefully the specs to see what you get, because the two lighter versions do not have all the goodies that the big version does. And although they have added more enhancements, they have also introduced a greater level of complexity. So it is not as intuitive, shall we say, not that I think most DAWs are out of the box intuitive, but this interface is not going to appeal to the beginner. You will have to spend a lot of time getting to know it and how to use it. And even existing users are going to have to learn what the new features are and get used to the plethora of information which it now presents. Now, personally, I don't think I'm going to jump on board with this. If Steinberg at some point in the future makes me an offer I can't refuse, I might upgrade, but I'm quite basically happy with Cubase as it is. Now, Dom Sigalas, he is a power user. He probably uses 90% of the power of Cubase. And if you are in that category, then I can well see this is probably worth having. I, on the other hand, probably use about 5%. And although some of the enhancements are neat and would be nice to have, I'm not convinced it's worth forking out 85 quid in order to get them. What do you think? Let me know. Are you a Cubase user? Are you going to upgrade? I suspect for many people this is just going to be an automatic upgrade anyway, especially if you paid 500 quid for the biggie at an earlier time. But if you are not a Cubase user and you're still with me, well, thank you for watching. But does this inspire or encourage you to join the group of Cubase users? Let me know in the comments. So if you found this video interesting, helpful, thought-provoking, mildly entertaining in any way, maybe you would like to consider subscribing to the channel. There's a big button down there waiting to be clicked, and if you have enjoyed it, then please click the big thumb, because that would help as well. And if you have enjoyed this video, I think you might enjoy these videos as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon in the next one.